Over three.
Got it. Can you just quickly add the active link in the group if possible? The existing link of the class if someone is facing issue.
Yeah, also, and this session would be recorded. So
Yeah. They'll be recording the session. Obviously, they all know they need recordings when they do not
yeah,
attend class. Right? So people who are not able to attend, they deserve. So quickly, I'll take 5 people and want to know your NFT journey. Is it like you just read a news or found an article that Amitabh Bachchan launched his own NFT? That's why you're here, or technology excites you, or you yourself is a creator or an artist or something like that. 5 faces that I can see. I can see Sunil. I can see Sarvesh. I can see Vivek and Gazla. Go on, guys. Yeah, Sunil.
Yeah, hi, Saurabh. So, I started, I have heard about NFT a couple of years ago, but never paid attention, except in March, April, when Gary Vee started talking. And I, at that time, did the first study and decided to invest a bit in his NFTs. Then I invested in Digital Pratik, and now I'm watching the space and want to learn a bit more. And then I heard you in that session with Pratik. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
where I'm moving on. Basically, I'm every day. I think a lot of work is happening in this area. While it is new, I think there are thousands of people who are creating a lot of valuable content from their experience. So it is good to have a systematic platform like what you have created to, get on the right track. It's very risky in many ways. It's very unpredictable. So for long term, how do we manage it? I mean, one cannot be on Twitter or Facebook and everywhere else tracking like who's tweeting what, who's doing what, right? You can't go like crazy like that. So that's the key reason, and I personally felt very good hearing when you were talking in that day. So thanks. Looking
So,
forward.
other people who are talking on in Telegram, sir?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I think you're not on my Instagram. We met yesterday.
Okay. Right.
Yesterday was in Pune and randomly dropped at his place and we had a good catch up.
Good.
So yeah, lovely sir. Welcome. Right, happy to have you here. And so this is just beginning, right? 3 days are. I'll tell you, right. So 3 days are nothing, honestly. So the purpose was to bring in people closer to the ecosystem, so that from here we start exploring the entire side of technological evolution, revolution. What do we say, right? And actually, it started
yeah,
evolving
yes,
the period you said, right? 2020, 2020 was the time, but Kedar want to cover a good amount of history as well. Sarvesh,
yeah. That sure is gonna be covered.
Yeah. Hi. So, again, I heard the buzz. I think around May or sorry April. That's when it was buzzing. That's when I heard about it. In fact, I started creating 3D art because I wanted to get into the NFT space. I felt like that was a very easy way to get into it, and also felt like a good way to get rewarded as an artist without having to rely on platforms like Instagram and ads and all of that. So it's still new. I'm still not sure about the value it adds, but I know that NFT has other use cases beyond just selling artwork like ticketing and stuff. I don't completely get it. That's exactly why I'm here, and I'm excited to be a part of this journey.
Excited to have you, sir, Sarvesh.
great. I am taking your profile. You're doing a crazy work, Sarvesh.
Thanks. I did.
Welcome.
I did mint my first NFT on WazirX, I think about a month ago, and that was pretty
Oh, that's
exciting.
nice.
But I'm taking it easy, and I just want to understand all the other marketplaces and see where I can get the most value out of what I'm putting out there.
Definitely.
So cool. Are you all pumped up? All the best, Sarvesh. Sunil sir is sending some wishes towards you. Cool. So, guys, I want you to write in chat. I know this is weird, but your age. I want to understand the age group of our batch, so that lovely Kashyap,
Nice.
Vinith, welcome. Interesting.
It's nice.
This is what. So we usually used to do this. Ayush, can you turn off this tune or something? Do we have an option? I told you we should do this on Zoom. It's okay. It's fine. We'll manage it. We'll get used to it. Yeah, for different reasons, we're not doing this time on Zoom. 21-year-old with 30
30
years.
years of experience.
Okay, 21-year-old with 30. Okay, nice, Sunil. That is a
Nice.
lovely
Very
analogy.
good.
So we'll count you as 21-year-old, okay, with so much experience. Great. So we are. So Kedar, it's up to
Yep.
you now. Look at the audience. Look at the entire age bracket, right? The least I've seen is 21.
There is 18.
There's 18. Every batch is 18.
There is 17. Okay.
18. Shit. Nice.
Nice,
And
nice.
also have 54. Okay, great. So
It's
70.
really lovely to see everyone. Yeah.
Lovely. Thanks a lot. I asked this question. I think a lot of you recently joined who all are not from India. Can you write in chat if you're not from India? You can just put your region. The reason is Kedar has a lot of examples which gonna come in our further presentation, and we want those to go smooth because if he talk rupee, if he talks a lot of local examples, you won't be able to relate. Right? So we were trying to give you an example of an artist called Raju, but now we have renamed that artist by what, bro?
No, John.
John. Okay, so we'll have to write. We still keep it Raju and John, but we really want to understand if you're not from India, which region are you from? So let's do it officially. Welcome everyone to the NFT Bootcamp's Genesis batch. Now, how many of you know this keyword Genesis? What is Genesis? Now, a lot of people actually texted me, ki, boss, what is Genesis batch?
Maybe it is the first batch.
Yeah,
Maybe
but where is it coming from?
It's a reference from Bitcoin, the Genesis block. I'm
Yes.
guessing. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
We all are very used to the terms that we use in our ecosystem, and that's why we named this batch as Genesis batch, and it has to do a lot with the future, right? So if the programs really succeed in near future, you guys are recognized as our Genesis batch members. We never know where is this blockchain school game going, right? Okay, so quickly introducing myself. I'm founder and creator of this tiny platform called the Blockchain School. Started this 2 years ago. On my mission, Ayush, Anmol, Samrat, and a lot of other team members joined. And recently, we found this interesting guy, Kedar, and then we reached out to him. We had planned to launch NFT Bootcamp. Yeah, we are sold out. We limited to 50 seats. We are at 50 right now. So we promised Kedar that we'll bring in good audience and we'll give you a good head start when it comes to teaching. He's already done teaching at Michigan State University for a blockchain centric school or a blockchain centric program. He knows it well. I'm bad with that, honestly. But he was also part of multiple hackathons, hackathons and things like that. But obviously, you are doing great in the building journey, but we really want a lot of them to come and become teachers because they have succeeded. But what about others, right? We want more people to come in the ecosystem. So we say with Blockchain School, we are basically building the builders and nothing else, right? So once again, welcome everyone. I can see the count at 45. You don't need to raise hand, Chanda. You can unmute yourself and speak up, but not right now.
Yeah,
Go
also, actually, I need to learn about hackathon also because in my college they are saying just do the competitive things and
Okay, so
don't
let me make a statement. Okay, so apart from this 3 days, right? Kedar will be available on Discord as a mentor.
Yes.
He will be accessible. Okay, so even he just pitched me this that 2 hour, 1 hour is a lesser time. So in the afternoon times, if you need some extra time, we used to do this on our previous boot camps. Prajakta is here. She knows that a lot of our alums are here, right? So if you need his access, no, Prajakta. Chanda, you'll have to mute yourself, please.
Okay, sorry.
It's a 50 people class, so we'll communicate by the end. Thank you so much. What I was saying is we need to be as excited as we are, but obviously there are gonna be instances where Kedar won't be able to take all the questions because the batch size is 50. That's why we're arranging a 30-minute, 1 hour kind of extra session on Discord during daytimes. Only if majority of you shows interest on our WhatsApp group, that's when he will come live on Discord.
We can finalize the timing and then we can all meet there.
Quickly, to give you gist of the format, I think I'll have to just share the screen and take you through. I think we'll have to wind this up quickly, but this is necessary so that you have a fair idea what we're gonna learn in next 3 days. So today we'll be starting up, I think, introduction to courses happening. We'll be understanding a bit of blockchain basics. So everyone who already know blockchain, who already know crypto, guys, please consider this as a rehearsal class or a practice class or something like that. Do not shout out loud that we do not want to learn blockchain and crypto. We are here to learn NFT. Those gonna be the fundamentals to get started. Then we'll be understanding wallets, very important aspects of NFTs. Sarvesh said he minted NFT. I'm pretty sure that he must have referred to or used a wallet in his journey. Tokens, non-fungible, fungible, and what is this all about, right? So, and in fact, Kedar is an expert in two tokens, so he'll be explaining that in a better scale. And we'll be also talking about the difference between fungible and non-fungible tokens. We have made sure that we are covering a lot of examples to make things easy for you. If you feel any doubts during the session, please put questions in chat. By the end, we will open up the stage for everyone to come and obviously ask their questions. But meanwhile, if we find some important questions are there, Ayush will take those questions and pull it off if there's a situation of such. Day 2, we'll be talking about history, types, and use cases of NFTs. We'll be going hands-on. In day 2, we'll be setting up the wallet and depositing token. I think Kedar will give you a brief on that. Then day 2 will also be covering the interesting element of buying your own NFT. Day 3 will be talking the part 2 of the same sequel. We'll be talking about minting an NFT. Now, minting is a term which you need to be, obviously, we'll be learning once we reach there. But there are 3 important elements. One, you buy NFT, you sell NFT, and you mint an NFT, which is, in the easiest sense, I can say you can upload an NFT on blockchain. But let's not upload, we basically mint it so that it's now up on blockchain, things like that. We'll be deep diving into metadata of NFTs. Now, this is something that nobody's teaching. Kedar came to me and said we need to teach metadata. Opportunities, careers, and future. Now, I think, Sarvesh, when you launched an NFT or minted an NFT on WazirX, you must be aware with this that there are thousands and thousands of NFT creators now. I think millions, I can say. But the challenge here is not everyone is able to sell an NFT successfully. What's the career? What's the future? What's the opportunity, right? So I think one important element that's missing right now, and that's what we want to equip you guys with, is the entire aspect of NFT. We are not only learning NFT, but what to do next. And we'll have a couple of assessments, quiz, task, and things like that, right? One will be minting the blockchain school's own NFT to show you the demo and things like that. And we'll be creating 50 copies of those NFTs and dropping in your wallet addresses. And that's where we say that, yeah, certificate is important, but I think what is important is something that is more related to the program itself. So let's not waste more time. I'll welcome Kedar. It's already 17:13 now.
Yeah.
7:13.
Thank you, Saurabh, for the introduction.
Yeah. So Kedar, I think the stage is all yours. We all are super pumped. Guys, just write in chat. We're all getting started. So what we say is obviously, let's go. So that Kedar gets a cheer as a teacher with blockchain school for the first time. He had done a couple of lives and things like that.
Yeah,
so,
let's go. Come on.
Yeah,
Nice.
I think we are all set. Okay.
Yeah, let me just start by sharing my screen. Everyone can see the screen, right? Okay. Nice. So I know that Saurabh has given few guidelines, but still, me as being the mentor, it's my duty to tell you a few guidelines. Okay, so if you have any questions, please do raise your hands, and then we also will be creating. Yeah, Ayush has shared the link to the Discord channel, so please do join it there. And say you during our Q&A, right? If you ask any questions, and I think I feel that some concepts need to be clear before answering that question, I would be covering it in the upcoming session. So and also I would be happy to answer all your doubts. Okay. So let's start with the session. So hi, I am Kedar. Let me take you into the dive of the world of NFTs and let me guide you into this new future. Before that, I will give you a brief introduction about myself. I am a blockchain developer and have been exploring this space for last 2 years. have participated in few hackathons like ETH Online and ETH India and have won there. Have worked on really interesting use cases during my internships and being part of some open source communities. So also, I want you guys to describe your feelings towards NFTs using any kind of NFT or something. Like, if you love the NFTs, please put a heart there. Okay, is the screen not visible?
Yeah, it is visible. It is visible.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. If you you can share your feelings about NFTs in the chat using emojis. And for all the meme lovers out there, okay, we have this meme, and it stands true till date actually. So when I initially started to look into the NFT space, right? This was true. So I thought like these NFTs would be all cool 3D images and art. But what I saw was pixelated monkeys and cats all roaming in the marketplaces. And I thought like, why is this so? Okay. It's because these contain some sentimental value as well. The NFTs all have sentimental values. Say one of your favorite actor, like everyone loves Tom Cruise, right? So Tom Cruise launches his NFT and those are some pixelated images, but still everyone would rush to buy them because it has a sentimental value attached to it. So that's why I really love this meme and wanted to start the lecture with this. So I know that Saurav already covered the topics in brief, but let me just give you an overview. So today we're going to discuss most of the basic concepts like blockchain, cryptocurrency, wallets, what are tokens, difference between cryptocurrency and a token, then what is fungibility, what is non-fungibility, what are fungible tokens, non-fungible tokens, and many more topics. Let me start by telling you a story about an artist. His name is John. So John sells his art for around $30 to $50 a piece. One day, a businessman buys his arts and he approaches him. Basically, he was interested in the art. So he approached him and asked like, what is the cost? So John told him it's about $45. The businessman tipped him $10 more and bought it for $55. John was happy. And actually, this businessman was a collector and he was planning for an auction from a few months, and when he saw John's art, he wanted to put it in the auction. And actually many people were really, they liked the John's art, and it got sold for $10,000. And here what happened is John was unaware of this fact and he didn't get any recognition or credit or anything related to it. And also no one knew that it was John who had this spectacular art piece, right? And how many of you love music? Because I'm really a fan of music. I love heavy metal music and rock music. So the next story is a little bit closer to my heart. It's about a musician named Alice. She's an independent sample and stem creator and sells these to different music houses. And one time her sample got passed to a great movie producing company, and during one of the action sequence of a movie, they, using that sample, they created some music and added to it. The movie was a blockbuster hit, and its music score was really appreciated by everyone. But there was no name for Alice or not any recognition for her. So what do you think, guys? Like, where is the problem here? Like, what do you think? I want some answers in the chat. Like, where's the problem here? What do you think? Yeah. Yeah, awareness. It is one of the issue.
Problem is probably in tracking that piece of music and attaching an original user to it.
Yeah, that is actually I really request you all to like mute yourself and put it in the chat. Cannot link to the original creator. Yeah. Absence of credit. Yeah. So many of you are correct. Like the problem is lack of transparency in the system, right? Then lack of valuation. Like for an art piece, how is the valuation going to be there, right? Then there is no recognition for it. And here is where NFTs as a technology can really be helpful. Okay. Okay. By the end of the session, I really promise you guys that you will be able to understand why NFTs would help us here. Okay. So main problems that NFT solves are, it solves the problem of transparency. It solves the problem of valuation. Then due to blockchain being there, it solves the problem of security and the problem of individuality. Okay, so now we got to know that NFT can solve these issues, right? But before that, for us all to be on the same page, let's define what can be classified as a digital art. Okay, so we can say that digital art is something that can be created on any electronic devices or softwares like tablets or Adobe Photoshop or anywhere, right? And there are many things that can be classified as digital art, like images, GIFs, there are 3D renders, then there are videos. Many things can be classified under digital art. And now, okay, we know that NFTs can solve this issue. We know what digital art is, right? But what is the thing that makes it work? Like, what is the thing that makes it work? How can this all work together? Like, do you guys have any hint? Like, can anyone get hint here? Like, what is the base technology that can make it work? If you have, you can put it in the chat. Yeah, right, Sarvesh. Right, it's blockchain. So that's what we're going to learn now in really basic and simpler terms. In a really jargon-free language, we're going to learn what blockchain is. Okay, so what we can define blockchain is, blockchain can be defined as an open distributed ledger that records transaction between two parties, and that data is stored permanently. Okay, let's consider an example here. So many of you in India would be familiar with the fact that many stores, it was a previous practice, but still now in many cities and towns, this practice is going on. In many stores, they keep a register of things, right? So there is this grocery store, that person keeps a register and he writes down every transaction he does there. Like, I sold this many amount today, or this I bought from this person this much amount, right? And he writes it. So let's consider that register. Okay, and let's consider that all the person have the same register with them, and whatever is being written is being copied to all the registers. So in that sense, we can understand blockchain. There is also a visual diagram that I'm going to show. So say there is a transaction, right? A transaction is being written. I am transferring some ethers to Saurabh. So it would be written through me on my register that I am transferring 1 ether to Saurabh. Okay, and all that transaction that can be called as a transaction. Okay, and it would be a block that would represent that transaction, and it would be passed to the whole network. So what is the network here? The network are all the different servers that are connected. They basically run the same software and they are connected together. So once I write the transaction, it would be transferred to the network where it would be validated and it would be executed. So you can consider it that when I write in my journal or the register, everyone else would also write that after it's been verified. So now if Saurabh says that no, Kedar didn't give me X amount of ether, he changes on it his register, still there are n number of other registers who can tell that no, it's not true, and that Kedar has transferred this, right? So to say it in a simpler sense, a blockchain is innovative way of passing information from entity A or party A to party B in a fully automated and safe manner. Okay, why I'm saying automated and safe, that we would discuss in the advantages of blockchain. So if you guys have got basic info about blockchain, put yes in the chat. So that would let me know that you guys have got the basic info. Nice, nice, nice. We see many yes. Yes, nice. Okay, now let's go and see what are the different types of blockchain. Okay, to put it, we have 4 different and important types of blockchain. They are public blockchain, then we have private blockchain, we have consortium and hybrid blockchain. But to focus corely on NFTs, we're going to focus, and I'm going to explain you guys what public blockchain is. Public blockchain like Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, we're going to focus mainly on them. Okay, so to say, public blockchain is a permissionless distributed ledger. Okay, and it has various advantages, like anyone can join the network and be part of it. Whoever joins would be incentivized for joining the network, and the many the node joins, the much secure the blockchain would be. This in turn brings trust and transparency among the whole community, or say the participants of the blockchain. And previously I had mentioned why we call it automated transaction, right? Because all the different nodes or servers who are running the software on it, they have been programmed to do it automatically. Everything has been programmed to do it automatically. And as it is being controlled by the public, there is no chance of it being not secure, right? Now that we have scratched the surface of terms like blockchain and what problems NFT can solve, right? How is there a sync between blockchain and NFT, right? To say that, I need to first break down few more jargons for you guys and few more concepts, really basic concepts like cryptocurrencies. So how many of you have heard about cryptocurrencies? Just put a yes in the chat. Or if you hold some kind of cryptocurrency in your portfolio, or what is your favorite currency, you can just put the name or the token ticker in the chat. Okay, BAT token, Cardano, Ethereum, Solana, nice, nice. Uniland, Bitcoin, ETH, ADA, nice, ETH, nice. Okay, so basically cryptocurrency is a digital currency that is being verified and maintained on the blockchain or any decentralized system. Okay, and we all know that actually this is a fact. So there are actually currently more than 10,000 cryptocurrencies worldwide as of now. Okay, and cryptocurrencies have their own blockchain, whereas crypto tokens are built on existing blockchain. If it sounds confusing, I'm going to break it down in few minutes. Don't worry about it. But before that, let's see few examples of cryptocurrencies. So we have Ethereum, we have Polkadot, Cardano, and the main Bitcoin, the Genesis crypto blockchain, you could say, Bitcoin. Then for all the people who have seen a random dog meme floating in the Twitter, we also have Dogecoin. It is also a cryptocurrency. So now that we know what cryptocurrency is, right, let's take a small look into the history of NFTs and how till now we have been to where we are in the NFT space. It's not a long history of say 15 to 20 years. It's really recent. Everything started mostly in 2011, but at that time the term NFTs were not in mainstream. Like it wasn't even coined at that time. It all started with .bit domains. So .bit domains was a functionality given on the Namecoin blockchain. So have you guys heard about Namecoin? It was a fork of Bitcoin actually in 2011. And it didn't go well. The project was just for the sake of being there. But the idea was stuck, and we will get to know in the next slide which project right now is using kind of similar idea, but they have really been successful at it. Okay. Then in later parts in 2013, there were colored coins. Okay. And colored coins were like basically developers were trying out things to make some kind of asset representation on the Bitcoin blockchain. But as we all know, like Bitcoin blockchain has a scripting language, and it's tough to write custom programs on Bitcoin blockchain. So it was really a niche community of people who were interested in it. But the change happened when in 2015 Ethereum was launched. Ethereum had the functionality of having custom code run on it. And after a few years of development, in 2017, there were few projects that took mainstream, like CryptoPunks, CryptoKitties. Okay, actually, CryptoKitties was such in high demand that in 2017, it nearly stuck. It was nearly having the most gas fees being paid to the CryptoKitties smart contract, and people were saying that the Ethereum blockchain is going to stop because of it. But it didn't happen. But that is when people got to know the power of NFTs. Okay, so CryptoKitties was really a cute game where people can mint kitties, buy them, sell them. They can even breed new kitties out of it. And everything was unique. Like each kitten was unique. And in 2017, there was this marketplace launched. Okay, don't worry if you don't know these terms like marketplaces and know about the CryptoKitties and stuff. Everything would be covered. So this marketplace called OpenSea was launched. It is right now the highest valued marketplace for NFTs, and most of the NFTs that are being launched on OpenSea. Then after the 2017 bull run, everything was being developed in speed actually. And in 2020, there was this blockchain called Flow blockchain. It introduced to us NFT Top Shot. Okay, so NFT Top Shot was one of its kind platform, which actually was something which had a value with the people, right? Because many of the NBA players actually were interested in this place because they could basically buy a piece of history with them, like a specific shot or a specific match or something related to their favorite players. So this is something that took the starting of the 2020-2021 NFT hype. And in 2021, this was this artist called Beeple. Okay, he sold his NFT art for a whooping cost of $69 million. And don't worry, we're gonna get into the history of Beeple tomorrow in our histories class. It was just an intro for you guys to get interested in this. Okay, so can you guys put in the chat what this cute game name is? I have given a hint in the previous slide, and it was actually one of the most renowned project in NFT space. Yeah, it's CryptoKitty. You're right. These are really cute kittens, right? So does anyone own any CryptoKitties? Because I myself own few CryptoKitties. If you won't, type yes. Okay, Sunil has one. That's nice. Okay. So also, these were the other projects that I talked about: CryptoPunks, NBA Top Shot, and this is the one that I was telling you, ENS. Okay, so I don't know how much you guys know about domain name service or DNS. Okay, but it's just the thing that on internet, if you type something like www.google.com, there you don't need to learn some numbers, like because every website has some IP address to it, right? So this domain name service helps us in transferring, basically getting to know about names of different websites. Similarly, on Ethereum blockchain, the addresses are quite complex. Okay, the addresses are hash values and we cannot learn them, or we cannot by heart them or type them. Most people use the mechanism of copying pasting, but here's the ENS actually tried to tackle this problem, and that too using NFTs. Okay, so NFT is not just about art, this is about use cases as well. So if you buy an ENS, okay, say I buy a ENS for my address and attach it to it, say kedark.eth, and if Sunil wants to send me some ETH, he just don't need to type my whole address. He just need to type kedark.eth, and it would automatically connect to my address. So there are different other use cases as well of NFTs that are emerging and are going mainstream right now. to look at just the market capitalization of NFT collectibles and tokens, we can see in the March of 2021, it went to a whooping $432 million. And this is considering all the different blockchains and stuff, but still I was astonished when I got to know that this market cap actually surpassed the GDP of more than 20 countries. And that's huge considering that this technology is not even more than a decade old. So if you think, like, there is this concept in crypto community called to the moon. Okay, if you have heard about the Dogecoin memes and stuff. Okay, so if you think that NFTs can go to the moon, just put a rocket emoji in the chat. That NFTs to the moon. Okay. Okay. Now moving further, let me say you something, that NFT is a token. Okay, and I would explain it to you why NFT is a token. You would say that those who you know that NFT means non-fungible tokens, you would say, yes, Kedar, we know NFT is a token. But let's see why do we call NFT token? And the technical definition will be given to it tomorrow, the types and everything. But today, let's see the basics of it. Okay. So what are tokens, right? In cryptocurrency slide, I told you that cryptocurrencies are for existing blockchain, right? But we can create actually tokens on different blockchains. Okay. So this is possible due to using smart contracts. Now, what are smart contracts? Smart contracts are nothing but specific, like, automated codes that run on the blockchain, and they have set of functions written onto them, and they do that. So basically, using this smart contract, we create different decentralized application or dApps. Okay, and I have, like, put few examples of some interesting tokens that I know. Okay, so first is the Graph token. I don't know how many of you have heard about the Graph protocol. So what they are trying to solve is they are trying to index the Web3. Like, they are trying to index the whole data that is present on the Web3. They are trying to index it. And this, like, they don't need to create their own blockchain to do it, right? So that's why here they need something as tokens. Okay. Then there is Compound. Okay. So Compound is basically one of the major player in the decentralized finance ecosystem. They provide various facilities like staking vaults. Like, if you have some ether, you can go to Compound, stake it there, and earn passive interest on it. They even provide you loans. So say you don't want to swap your ether, you just want to take like, you want some DAI. So what you can do is you can go to Compound, stake your ether there, and take a loan in DAI. So these are existing use cases, can only be created using smart contracts, tokens, and decentralized application. And to say, like, what are the different use cases, right? So just like cryptocurrency can be traded or spent, we can trade different tokens, we can spend them, we can mint tokens. Many people, like many of you in the audience, have already invested in different cryptocurrencies and tokens, and it offers a way to earn interest, right? So say you are interested in some project and you buy the tokens for it, that project goes to the moon, and then the value of that token would also be increased, right? Then in 2017, 2018, many projects actually raised funds using something called as ICOs, which is initial coin offerings. Okay, it's just like initial public offerings, but when a company goes to public, right, it already has a large users database and large revenue model. But due to like the technologies like tokens and blockchain, many of these companies were able to pitch in their ideas and directly get funds from crowds, and in that way initial coin offerings were happening. And due to this, there were many projects that actually got a great start, and where there are now like prime use cases in the blockchain space. Also, like, tokens can be used by any community or a company to reward to their users. So say you always are part of the it's different Twitter Twitter post and everything, you are always there. So they provide airdrops to these people. So there was this famous airdrop that happened to for a project called Uniswap. Okay, what they did was, Uniswap is an exchange place. Like you can exchange your ethers for DAI or exchange one currency for another currency. So what they did was, they did airdrop of their tokens, and for all the users that have till now even done a single transaction. And this is really huge, right? Like, token really allows us to solve these kinds of different things, and it allows us these different things. Also, for us, the important point is, token can be used to represent a unique art or a media. That is what we call NFT. That's why we say that NFT is a token. Now you would say, okay, Kedar, you told us what blockchain is, cryptocurrency is, what are tokens. How do they relate with NFT? Okay, say I own a cat. How do you relate it with it? So it is, how they are relatable is for the valuation of that NFT. So if I own a CryptoPunk or a CryptoKitty, how would I create its value? How would I know that its value is XX dollars or say $100? This is where they are related with tokens, right? So there are different tokens like DAI, USDC, USDT, or there are cryptocurrencies like Ethers, through which we can basically buy, mint, or sell these NFTs, right? So this is where the NFTs are related with like cryptocurrencies and crypto tokens. Okay, if you heard it correctly, I had mentioned about something called Web3. Okay, so Web3 is basically, let me explain it to you. Web3 is actually, it's a idea, it's a movement. Okay, why is it there, and why people are interested about Web3? Okay, because the internet was created to like bring us all together, right? But somewhere along that way, due to like different centralized organizations and various big organizations, that vision was lost. And we actually, as a user, we cannot, like, we think that this is out of our control, and that it is not possible to control our data. So that is where Web3 is trying to solve these problems. And it's not just a single technology or an advancement, okay, but it is the complete rethinking, and everything is being reimagined while we talk about Web3. And here there is a need of something called as trust layer. Okay, we need something that we can trust on, and this is where blockchain is an integral part of Web3. Okay, but you would say, Kedar, okay, you told us about blockchain and stuff. And we also got to know how transactions work, right? But then how do we interact with the blockchain? How do we connect with the blockchain? How do we transact on a blockchain? This is where wallets come into place. So wallets are basically a computer code or a software that represents any kind of address. And if your address has few cryptocurrencies in it, they are also shown on the wallet. Okay, because in Web3, we don't ask for any data or name or the email address of a person. So if you connect to a marketplace, right, and you want to sell some NFTs, or even if you go and visit some marketplace, you won't need your data like email addresses, name, or phone number. The only thing that you need is an address, and that address can be provided using a wallet. So if you just connect a wallet to a marketplace, you will be open to the whole world of NFTs. So I think few of you have already tried out like NFTs and stuff. So do you know some examples of wallet or something? If you know, you can put it in the chat. Yeah, MetaMask. Okay, many of you know MetaMask. That's nice. So let me also share with you all few more wallets, okay, which I have personally selected.
Kedar, Sneh has raised his hand. Sneh, do you have any question for us?
Yes, Sneh.
I actually have a question. That you just mentioned that in the Web3 we don't have to give our name or any personal details, right?
Right.
So we just have the wallet address, and the wallet address gets active once we have some um, tokens in it. Am I correct
Yes.
in saying this? Yeah. So, um, but um, but after we let us say if I have my ENS domain, so then I have basically just given out my details, right? So like I feel that these two, I feel that these two statements were, you know, feeling
Oh,
different.
okay,
I
okay,
felt these two
okay.
statements different. That's why. So can you just clarify
Yeah, sure,
here?
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So to register your ENS domain, you don't need to have it as your original name. You can register it by any name. Like say if you want to register like sp.eth or snp.eth or anything, it can be anything like Rocky. Anything can be as your ENS name unless it's been registered by some other address. So it's not compulsory to give out your details. That's what I'm saying. That's why Web3 is really an interesting thing. Okay, so these are some of the wallets that I've curated for you guys. You can go through this chart. And for our part, right, for NFTs, we are going to mostly cover the digital part. So my more focus would be on the online wallets. But for you, some guys there, I also curated few list of hardware wallets. Okay, and I will explain you both of these: what online wallets are, what hardware wallets are. Okay, so online wallets are like Binance and Coinbase. Okay, these are centralized exchanges, but they have wallets in them. So you can basically buy the tokens and they can be held in that wallet. These are fast, easier to use, and convenient, but still it doesn't count into Web3. They are more of a centralized system. Okay, I'm going to share with you another digital wallet which is decentralized and open source. Okay, now let's cover a hardware wallet. Okay, so some people don't want their data to be online, or they don't want their wallet seed phrases or passwords to be online. So that is where hardware wallets come into play. So if you want to do a transaction, you just need to connect your wallet, hardware wallet, and that would help you in the transaction. But the issue with hardware wallet is they are a bit on the expensive side, because they are not used by many people, right? It's a particular niche of people that are currently using them, and also they are not supported by most of the platforms. Okay, yes, these slides would be provided, so you can go through the whole wallet chart, the pros and cons, and this would help you decide what kind of wallet you want to use. Okay, so let me introduce you to MetaMask. I know many of you have already used MetaMask, but consider this as an intro video and a revision for what MetaMask is. Okay, so MetaMask is a completely open source developed application, and it is actually not an application, it's just a web extension which acts as a wallet. Okay, and that makes it rather powerful because it's not giving any load on your system, and it's pretty easy to set up. And we're gonna set it up and see how it works tomorrow or during the hands-on session. And what is the main thing about MetaMask is it is built around Ethereum. So whatever blockchain that are derived from the Ethereum code base, like Polygon, Binance, MetaMask can be easily integrated with them, and we can use the same MetaMask wallet on these blockchains as well. Okay, now let me like break few more jargons to you. Okay, jargons in the sense some difficult words like fungibility, non-fungibility. So have you guys heard about what fungible is or non-fungible is? If you have, just put it in the chat as yes, I have heard about it, or if you haven't, just put it in the chat as you haven't. Okay, okay, okay. So let me explain you what fungibility is by a simple example. Okay, so say I go to a store with my friend Ron, and there I borrow $50 from Ron. Okay, I didn't have at that time, so I borrow $50 from Ron. And when it comes the time for me to give back the value to Ron, it is up to me to give him a single $50 note or multiple $10 notes, like five $10 notes to him. It would still have the same value in it, right? The value would still be $50. So this is what fungibility is. It is a property of any asset to basically whatever its individual units are, they are interchangeable, and it can be interchangeable because they have same value. Okay, so now we know what fungibility is. Now, can you guys tell me how can we make the same example of a $50 note non-fungible? How can we make a $50 note non-fungible? Can you guys tell me? Just put it in the chat if you have any idea how we can do it. You would say, Kedar, but $50 is $50, right? How can it be non-fungible? Okay, with some coffee beans. No, but still coffee beans are coffee beans, right? They would be similar. No, not creating a currency. No. Artwork, like you buy artwork for $50. No, that is what I'm not saying. I'm saying the same $50 note. How can you make it non-fungible? Okay. Let me tell you how we can do it. Okay. So say one of my favorite actors is Tom Holland, aka the Spider-Man. Okay. And say I get a signature of Tom Holland on a $50 note. So would I give that note back to Ron? That, hey, this is $50, right? It would change its value completely. It won't be $50 anymore. It's connected to me. It has a sentimental value. So this is how I can like make anything. How can we call something non-fungible? It is because it is unique in nature. Okay, it is unique in nature. That's why. I have another example. Okay, so like say you borrow your friend's car. Okay, it's a yellow car, you borrow it, and when it comes to the time of giving it back, you give him some other car. Okay, so won't he be furious that, man, you took my car and now you're giving me something else, right? So even if it's just a car, but still it's unique because each car is unique. So that's what non-fungible is. So to say non-fungible tokens are like units of data, unique units of data, okay, stored on blockchain. That can be anything like a digital asset or a domain name like ENS, anything that we call as non-fungible. Now, to sum it up, like here we got like two important points out of it, right? That physical money and cryptocurrencies are fungible. Mean we can trade them. Like I can trade $50 for say five $10 notes. But non-fungible is means that it is unique and it can't be replaced. Now I have a small exercise for you guys. It's a fun activity, okay? So I want you to put it in the chat, like which of these things are fungible and which of these are non-fungible. Come on. Okay, I want you to say like what is non-fungible, what is fungible. Okay, we got few answers here already. Yes, so CryptoKitties are non-fungible, art is non-fungible, house and properties are non-fungible, but dollar, Bitcoin, or Ethereum are fungible. You are right. Now let's go back and think about John and Alice. Okay, now do you think is there any way to help John and Alice with their problem? If you think the way, like you can put it in the chat, like right now you think, right? Yeah, making NFTs, right. So yes, you're right. So NFTs can really help us out here in case of John and Alice, and it's really nice that way. Okay, now we are coming to the end of today's session. Okay, but before that we have a small quiz for you. Okay, these are just 1-2 questions, and we just want to test out if you got value out of today's lecture. Okay, so this is the first question. What factors are most likely to influence the price of NFT? Okay, the options are who created or previously owned the NFT, how many editions of NFT are there, or the stock market, or both A and B. Oh, we have really awesome people here today. Nice. Okay, so for the people who didn't know, actually it's who created and how many editions are there. It's because NFTs are completely separate from stock market, and typically it doesn't affect the price. And the value of NFT is determined by its supply and demand, right? So if a version of certain NFT exists and 100 people want that NFT, the price will likely go up for it. Or if it's an NFT by your favorite artist, celebrity, or brand, you will be more interested in buying it, right? That's why it is both A and B. Now the last question is, why do people buy NFT? Okay, so why do you think people buy NFTs? Like, is it due to NFTs being generated billions of dollars? Is it they gain rights to a unique token, or due to surging price, like the increasing price of Bitcoin, or all of the above? Okay, I see many that they gain rights to unique token. Actually, okay, let's just wait. Okay, yes, many of you are correct. It is all of the above. These all factors actually are there because of why people buy NFTs. Okay, so by this, actually, we have come to the end of today's lecture, and these all slides will be provided to you, and these contain all the resources. I would really love if you guys went through the resources and see what these different things are, and go through all the links. These are all hyperlinks. You can visit them and read before tomorrow's lecture. Okay, I really thank you all for being present and continuously participating in today's lecture. Now we can move to the Q&A. And you can let me just unshare my screen, and we can start with the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Kedar. It was a lovely session. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that everyone enjoyed it a lot. And I really learned a lot. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you all for being participating and being continuously answering to the questions. Okay. Okay. So Vinit, go ahead. You have raised your hand.
Yeah. So my question is, if I buy some NFT, so do I get the physical possession of that particular art or anything?
So it depends on the artist. Okay. So if the artist is, say, giving out unlockable content or some physical possession of that, then you would get it. But if it's completely digital, then you won't get any physical value with it.
So like if somebody creates some music and then he creates he created NFT out of that.
Yeah.
So if I buy that NFT, but the copies of that music will be there across, I mean, how do I make sure that I am the only possessor of that music and nobody else creates the copy or something like that?
Yeah. So the thing is, the data can be copied, but once you are the owner of the NFT, right, it would be there on the blockchain that you own that NFT. So you have the right to the NFT, and that is the thing, right? If you go to, like, say, the Beeple's art piece, you can download it, right? But you cannot say you are the owner of that art piece, right?
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So I am the only legal owner of that particular thing.
Yes.
Others
And blockchain
may have the copy, but
that
it will not be an original thing, kind of that, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, Sarvesh, go ahead.
Yes, so not exactly related to NFTs, but you did mention that, well, what if I want to host my website on a blockchain instead of on a traditional internet, right? Say I don't want the government to block my website. Is there a way for me to use the Web 3.0 to achieve something like that?
Yes, there definitely is. So actually, you not gonna put your whole data of the website on the blockchain because it's expensive to do that. But there are things like interplanetary file system. You can write it down, IPFS, or textile.io. Okay, so these are some people who are really focusing on that part. In that sense, these data would actually be stored in a decentralized fashion. Okay, and that would be stored mostly for free of cost for you. And once it is stored in a decentralized fashion, no one can take that website down until and unless the last server is running. Your website won't be taken down.
So, in a way, I think blockchain, but decentralization, I think the earliest example I can think of that we practically used was torrents, where you can download things from a peer-to-peer network. So,
Yeah,
uh,
it was actually not completely decentralization example, but it was related to peer-to-peer technology. That is where you are true.
so okay, so how does this leverage the? Okay, got it for now. For now, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, Jitendra, go ahead.
So I was wondering if NFT can be like used to uh, prove ownership of like literature, or like would it be feasible to like writers to show ownership of a like poem or something like that?
Yeah, that is possible. Because if you create a digital version of it, anything that is created as a digital art, like literature is also a part of digital art. So you can create NFTs out of it.
Okay, because like it's just a text, like anyone can copy paste and create a new
That is the
thing.
thing, right? I think Vineet was the one who asked, like, if someone copies and pastes it, but you would actually be the true owner of it, right? Even if someone has the copy of it, it doesn't matter. The ownership would be in your hands.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Kashyap, go ahead with your question.
Thank you. See, I have a question related to Polygon. I have an
Okay.
NFT on OpenSea, which is minted on Polygon. Which I was
Okay.
playing with it. Now, if somebody wants to buy that, can they buy it just on Polygon network, or do they need to have Ethereum? How does that work? How does somebody
Yeah,
fund the
so
Polygon?
they would be able to buy it on Polygon, but I think it would be better if I answer that question after day 3 of our class, because this is something that we're going to cover ahead, if that's fine
Sure.
with you, or
Yep,
we
yep.
can even
I'll
discuss
hold
it
on to
in the
that.
Discord hours.
Oh, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Farad, go ahead. Farad?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so for the very first thing I wanted to ask you is, you mentioned in your previous slide that the value of NFT is dependent on the Bitcoin price surge. How are both of them related? How is the price of Bitcoin related to the value of an NFT?
Yeah. So, see, the market is driven basically by the Bitcoin blockchain. If you see that, right? If Bitcoin goes up, the whole market goes up. And the value of NFT is attached to any of the tokens. So, say the NFT is attached to Ethereum. Okay. So, if value of Bitcoin goes up, the value of Ethereum will go up. And eventually, the value of the NFT will go up, right?
Oh, okay. So it is indirectly related, it's not directly linked.
Yeah, it is indirectly related. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. And also, sorry, this is kind of a second point.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
So, for example, take CryptoPunks, for example. You mentioned that how do we decide the value of, an NFT? So if you could just give us the general factors that affect the value of an NFT, say like a CryptoPunk, why are they so expensive? Like, I don't get it.
So it's basically because of the human nature to buy rare things. So
Okay.
why do you think like some like meteorite or something has a value to it? It's because it is rare to find, right? Similarly, the CryptoPunks we say are the initial NFTs, and it is also because of demand and supply, right? There are few CryptoPunks that are there for sale, so that's why the value of it is high right now. But there was a time when the CryptoPunks were sold for free, so just imagine that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would love to add something, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. Go ahead.
Gucci also sells a perfume, and a normal brand also sells a perfume. Gucci has 10 limited sort of perfumes. And why the demand is, why the cost is higher is obviously demand is less and the brand value is more. So eventually, when growing up, CryptoPunks have created that level of brand, right? And it's all the community, right? Community has created that kind of brand and value around that keyword that people started realizing the value. I know one of my friend, I was taking an NFT class day before yesterday at Unacademy, right? So someone just asked me, do you know someone who holds in a CryptoPunk? And I know a person who holds 5 CryptoPunks. He invested around $150 back then, and today that the value of that particular holding is, I think, it's close to $1 million. It's close to $1 million. So it's 700, 800K kind of a thing, and he just kept it in his wallet, right? So he said the community added too much value to grow the kind of amount it is now.
Yes.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chanda. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, sir. Firstly, thank you for the session. I'm just stuck with the NFT kind of things because I never heard all those things. I have heard the blockchain things. So the thing I didn't understand that how can we help Alice and John? How are the ways? We when we sell our own products, we use some trademark or kind of watermark there. So is there that type of thing that we should add on it, or can you tell me the
Yeah. Let me explain it. So see, if John, or let's consider Alice. Okay, if Alice puts her music as a NFT, right? So there is this thing called royalties. Okay, I would explain it in the upcoming session, so don't worry about it. But basically, what that allows you is, so if that NFT is sold by Alice to say me, okay, and I further sell it to someone, whatever some percentage of it, say 5% of that sale will go to Alice. And if you go on the blockchain, you can see the initial transaction was done by Alice to mint that NFT, basically to create that NFT. So here there is transparency. Yeah,
is
go
it
ahead.
affiliate type of marketing or kind of thing?
No, it's not affiliate marketing, but it's that the Alice, whatever Alice address is, right, that would be permanently attached to the NFT in its history. So even if the NFT is transferred from one person to another, but if you go down the transactions, you would eventually find that the Alice address was the one who minted that NFT or created that NFT.
Chanda, ownership.
I think that
right?
answers your question.
You create an art, you upload it on blockchain, that creates the ownership, that shows the ownership of you. Now I purchase that art from me, Kedar purchased that art from Kedar, Gazla purchased that art. We keep selling to each other, but you as an artist will keep getting royalties forever. That's
Royalties on
the
it.
case of NFT because it's based on
So
blockchain.
you told us about community also. So does this really needed for those type of NFT? Community is important.
Yeah, so talking about Web3, community is really an essential part of Web3 because Web3 is giving back the power to the people, right? So whatever is there, so communities are essential for any kind of project that you build around in Web3. Yeah, you're welcome. Go ahead, Sneha, with your question.
Yeah. I actually have a question that is a little bit off the topic. May I ask it, or?
Sneha, put the question. Go
Okay,
on.
fine. Like I just wanted to ask that what is the difference between ERC 20 and ERC 720 token? Something I've heard it on
721,
Twitter,
okay.
or read it on Twitter a lot.
Okay.
Kedar, first give context to the
What, Saurabh? I just missed your
give the context to audience. What is an ERC?
Yeah, that I'm going to go. So what ERC is, it's a standard on the Ethereum blockchain. It is called Ethereum Request for Comments. Okay, and it's a specific standard and a set of functions that are there in the smart contract that makes something ERC20 or something ERC721. And then there comes the concept of fungibility and non-fungibility. So ERC20 are fungible tokens. You can exchange them. They are just like digital tokens or digital currencies. But ERC721 are unique tokens, just like car that we saw in the example, or CryptoKitties. Okay, so I guess that answers your question. If you still have questions, ask me on Discord. I would be really happy to help you with that.
So basically, a basic attention token is maybe a ERC is an ERC20 token, and an NFT is probably a 721.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I got it.
So ERC
Thank
is
you.
specific to Ethereum blockchain, right? It's not
but
standard that you
yes,
use
it
with
is. It is on Ethereum blockchain, but many of the blockchains have converted that standard form and combined it with different blockchains. So if you have heard about Tron blockchain, they have similar something called as TRC. So it is something that the standard is now been fixed, and eventually every blockchain is following it.
Binance's BSC.
Yeah.
So you have actually came up with its own terminologies or things like that.
But the core thing and the logic behind this is more rather same. Okay, Rishabh, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, hi. I had a question. Just now you mentioned about different types of blockchains. So Ethereum must be having its blockchain. You mentioned Tron having its own type of blockchain.
Yeah, Tron.
So my question was, what limits an artist to resell that same piece of artwork on different type of blockchains? So how does it work actually?
Okay.
Because since if I make a purchase or if you sell it, a token is generated on the blockchain, correct? But
yes.
itself now these are different types of blockchains. So how does the artist is restricted to resell those type of NFTs?
Yeah, so currently there are systems made, and these are called as bridges between blockchains, and these are currently in heavy development, and in the upcoming months they are currently, I think, for ERC20 standard. Okay, but for NFTs there are companies and projects heavily working on it to make your token ERC721 or any NFT type token convert from one blockchain or transfer from one blockchain to another blockchain. So that is going to be possible, but it would just take time of few months.
Okay, so it's like basically depends upon the cross compatibility of the two blockchains.
Yes.
So wouldn't it be an issue in the scalability of those blockchains? So
No, it wouldn't be an issue, right? It would just be an additional feature to the blockchain.
Okay,
it won't be an issue there.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah, welcome. Go ahead, Chandrakrishnan.
Hi, Kedar. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
How about you?
Kedar, I have this question. I'm completely new to this NFTs and this, but I'm enthusiastic. I'm asking, like, there are many things in the available. Somebody is using someone's art and portraying as that is as his own and creates NFT. Okay. How can the original creator can prove that that NFT would belong to him? Because all this does not contain any legality. They are not covered under the legality. How can an original creator can make sure that NFT belongs to him, doesn't belong to other guys?
Okay. So let me frame your question, right? So let me know if I'm framing it correctly. So it is that how would the normal people know if the creator is the original creator of that NFT, right? Whoever is the person. Yeah. So it is similar because see, right now many, you are right, it's not completely into the legal system and there is no system created around it, but this is due to it being a new idea, right? But if you as a owner, you have a representative address for you, right? Just like I had just mentioned this to someone, right? So if you have a unique address and the NFT is linked to that address or mapped to that address, so no one can actually, even if they steal the copy of that NFT, still they won't be the original owner.
Okay.
So So if I go and I copy CryptoKitty and create a new NFT out of it, but the smart contract of CryptoKitty won't let me do that, because even if I put it, it would be in a different smart contract, in a different code. And the original code of CryptoKitties would have the original rights or the info of the owner of the CryptoKitty.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah.
Guys, as we speak, I just read a news. Major Indian film production company Z Studios plans to drop Indian cinema NFT on Polygon.
Wow,
So yeah, I
that's
think
nice.
it's going mainstream. I have a list of 20 celebrities, in fact, really huge celebrities. They're all gonna jump on NFTs in a couple of months. We're looking at great news coming from all the Indian ecosystem platforms. And I think proudly we are also partner to one of them. So let's see how things goes. Lovelier, I think
That's
a lot
nice.
of questions.
And
See,
it's good, right, Saurabh?
intentionally. Me?
Yeah, that we are gonna introduce them to different blockchains like Polygon. You just said that they are launching it on Polygon, right?
Yeah. In fact, Kedar, once you obviously teach everything, right? There's a free course up on Polygon if people wants to learn more about the technology side of things too. But dude, like tomorrow, are we like getting into the hands-on directly, or we have some sort of a structure to be covered?
So there are few definitions like some difference of ERCs and that we need to cover, and then we will go to a hands-on, like setting up a wallet and how basically we can deposit tokens in a wallet from any exchange, and that too in the cheapest form. Okay, so in the cheapest way possible, by the lowering transaction fees. Yeah.
We scratched our head a lot because currently doing any sort of a transaction on Ethereum is charging a heavy gas fee. So we will tell you how to surpass that too. Please also include tax implication. So in fact, Kedar, I was thinking right in the last session, or maybe we'll take an extension where I'll be talking about the marketing. So this is additional, right? We haven't planned it yet. But while I was talking to someone on the other side, right? I was thinking that I'll take a sales, marketing, and tax and everything around NFTs as a additional class during the next
Yeah,
weekend.
if everyone is interested, we can surely go ahead. Right?
Because learning is fine, but the biggest challenge right now that creators are facing is obviously selling it successfully. I know creators who are selling it for like crazy amounts. I know 50 creators who are sad, not happy that boss, how can we actually reach the ultimate? Rajikta, you know, this is my everyday, right? So I in all the boot camps I used to do this, right? I used to come and now I need to go back and prepare honestly, but we'll come back with some good.
No, sure. We will come up with something. Yeah.
100%. So Ayush, if you are here, do remind me. I need to schedule a masterclass for selling, promoting, and understanding taxes around NFTs.
Sure.
Okay, so anyone else have any questions?
Questions?
I have one more question. You did
Yeah, go
mention something about interoperability and a standard across chains. So does that mean eventually it might be possible to buy, to trade NFTs or sell NFTs across chains? It won't be. So will that also mean that certain D apps that work on interoperability will kind of become obsolete?
Like what kind of D apps are you talking
I'm
about?
not sure, but you keep hearing about like if you want to transfer a token, like if you want to transfer Ethereum to Bitcoin, then you have some kind of either a decentralized exchange or something that kind of convert it,
I
right?
think Sarvesh.
I'm sorry, your voice is breaking. I can't hear.
Saurabh. Okay. So let me take that question. So like nothing will go obsolete. Okay. So actually being interoperability, that would actually increase the demand for it. Like many people would get interested. So people won't be limited to just Ethereum blockchain or Polygon blockchain or Binance blockchain. And once everything is connected, it would be more fun, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so I won't be limited. So I won't have to think too much about which marketplace I put my NFT on. So right now, if I put on OpenSea or WazirX, it won't matter because my audience will be that much bigger.
Yes, it would eventually grow. Yeah, and the technology is like developing every day. Like just now Saurabh told us the news, right? That like, and eventually everything will grow. So don't worry about where you're posting. And actually the marketplace that we're going to cover, right, that currently supports 3 different networks. So that is a plus point of the marketplace that we're going to cover.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes,
And,
Rajat. Okay, Ravi, go ahead.
Raj.
Yeah, hi Kedar. So I'm
Yeah,
audible.
hi. Yeah, you are rebel.
Yeah, so like I had read an article online that there's one company in UK, so they are going to sell properties uh, in NFT, and they are going to sell it like a part of NFTs. Like they will sell an NFT in multiple parts. So how is that possible, and how will determine the
Yeah.
who is the owner?
So that is called as fractionalization of NFT. So
Okay.
consider buying an NFT and breaking it into fungible
Yeah.
tokens. So it is due to it can be possible due to another standard called ERC-1155, which we're gonna cover tomorrow. So
Okay.
it combines the best of ERC-20 and ERC-721.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kedar.
Yeah. Welcome. Okay, so keep the question coming, guys.
We're done. We have more questions, guys. Go on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it was virtual lands what he was talking, right? So the same project I also checked. Virtual lands, it's possible, and yeah, they're actually moving towards the path of NFTs. Earlier, they thought we'll only keep the augmented reality in essence of blockchain. There's another
Okay.
project called Earth.io. I'm not wrong, Earth 2.0 or something like that.
Yeah, Earth 2.0.
They
Yeah,
are
it's a
doing
project actually. And one of the actually members of Earth 2.0 was with me in one of the boot camps, actually. So I had met that guy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
Who's going
Vinit,
next?
go ahead. Yeah.
I have one more question. Not exactly related to NFTs, but so you mentioned that we can sign to a website or register using our wallets. So this will be a good alternative to say a social login, like sign in using Google or Facebook or email.
Yes.
That we can just
Yes.
use a MetaMask wallet to sign. So if
Yes.
someone wants to provide that as a feature on their website or on their app right now, they can do it, right?
Yeah, so on website, there is this actually, yeah, on both you can do it. So there, if you go to the GitHub of MetaMask or their documents, you can find a way on how you can integrate MetaMask into your website or the mobile app, because they have both web extension as well as the mobile application.
Okay.
Yeah. So Vinit, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I remember just reading somewhere that you can create NFT of some precious real estate, and you can own part of that. So I'm not sure how that is going to work. I mean, if I want to, if I bought some NFT of some villa, maybe part of it, then
Yeah.
how I'm going to use that?
No, it's more about having the value in it. It's not about the usability part of point right now. Like, so if you like cannot buy the whole villa and you just want to buy the part of it, so that eventually the price of it would increase, and just like an investment point of view is what they are thinking.
Oh, okay. So it's just kind of market, not the actual possession or something of villa. So that villa cost will go up, and then that NFT will go up, right?
Yes. But eventually, what you said right now, right, the partition of villa, that would also happen, but it would take some time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Gautami, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Kedar. So
Yeah,
I
hi.
had this question, like we were discussing this properties real estate stuff. So this like not exactly related to NFTs, but since we were discussing blockchain also. Uh, so I guess there are ongoing projects of government storing the records on NFTs, land records and stuff. How does that work? Like if we cannot change the contents of the records, how does that thing really work?
I don't know. Like, I didn't understand your question. So, is it like
Say
how does
for
blockchain get the information about it, or?
no. For example, say if the government wants to store the Aadhaar card details on blockchain. Okay. So it may so happen that my name had a spelling mistake. If the records on blockchains cannot be changed, but if I want to correct my name spelling, how does that work? How would that work?
Okay. So, yeah. So, actually, the thing is, if you create, say, let's consider we are creating NFTs of different Aadhaar cards. Okay. So, what we can do is, if there is some issue in the name, we can update that. So, we can add some kind of functionality in the smart contract, the code that would be running everything, right? So, there can be some specific function added to it that allows us to update like few details, but that would be restricted to the owner. So say you are the owner, your address is the owner, and only you would be able to do that change. That is not possible in any traditional system, right?
So okay, so owner means I am the owner and I can change it, not the
Yeah.
government. Okay, so but then that wouldn't that like help people misuse the thing?
No, so there would be some kind of system to work around it as well, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not just that you can go and like directly change it. There would be some kind of authentication and everything. But this does mean that no one from like say any company or anyone associated with that specific thing can change it. It would be in your hands.
And to add on to that, won't there also be a permanent record of all the changes? So any kind of malicious activity can be tracked, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's one of the benefits for that. Like people cannot forge their identities and stuff.
Yeah. So does that like overall solve your question?
Not overall, but yeah, it was a good
Still,
answer.
you have any questions? We can like discuss it now.
I will probably read more on it and come back.
Yeah, sure. I would also find some resources and I can share that on the group related to that.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
Yeah. Like Saurabh, tell me if I'm spelling it correctly. Shamik Kasumurthy. Sorry if I've spelled it wrong.
Yeah, that's okay. Shamika here. Hi, Kedar. Hi, Saurabh.
Yeah.
So I missed part of the Q&A, so I'm not sure if it's been asked. I just wanted to know, how do generative NFTs work?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So actually recently I was part of a organization and we created some generative NFTs.
That's pretty cool.
That on Ethereum mainnet. So generative NFTs actually use coding logic. Like there is a code base and we add few layers there. Okay, so say if you have seen NFTs, they are not just a single image, they are layers of images. And what this generative code does is it mix and matches that images layers and creates unique values every time we run that code due to randomization being there. So in that sense, we can create generative NFTs.
Okay, I get it to a certain extent. I guess, how do you go about creating them?
Yeah, so that is a different topic, how to create them. But if you go just do a Google search, right? So there's this YouTube channel called Hashlips. Okay, if you go to that channel, they have created a content around generative NFTs and they have even provided a code base for it.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Yeah, so you should do look into it.
It happens via code, right?
Yeah, it is completely dependent on the code.
You'll be able to add that resource in a WhatsApp group, Kedar?
Yeah, I can add it. Yeah.
And so will that produce like just a limited number of NFTs or?
Yeah, it's up to you. You can create 100 NFTs, 10,000, 100,000 NFTs. It is up to you. Yeah.
Okay.
So is the same one you created, Kedar? The one you were showing me that there's a layer of 404 error or things like that.
That's the same
one.
Yeah. Yeah, DevPunks. Yeah.
And I've also heard about some NFTs that, when it goes from the primary to the secondary seller, some new features are unlocked or something like that. Is it based on the same logic?
Yeah, so these are different functions that can be tweaked in the smart contracts. Okay, so generative code is a different thing. Smart contracts are a different thing.
And sorry, go on.
Yeah, but there is this thing called what I was saying, royalties. Okay, that is added to the smart contract code, and what it basically does is it gives back a share of whatever the next transactions happen in the secondary market to the original owner of the NFT or the minter of the NFT.
Okay, and when we mint an NFT, do we need to write a smart contract, or is OpenSea and Foundation generates it on?
Yeah, so if you want to get into the coding, you can write the smart contract, you can do it. But there are platforms like OpenSea which are already providing you a like user interface to do that minting, and which is what we're gonna show on the third day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one more question. So now all these platforms like OpenSea, they have their standard smart contract.
Yes.
So see, as an artist, if I want to have more options in terms of smart contracts, in terms of whatever royalties, or in terms of unlockability of the NFT and stuff. So are there any platforms that provide you to say use a custom smart contract?
So there aren't any specific smart contracts related to custom smart contracts, but then you can there approach different blockchain developers, right? Who are specially like in the smart contract space, who know how smart contract works. Then you can customly approach them. Yeah.
So okay, I approach them, but eventually I'll want to upload my NFT onto the blockchain, or it should be available on the marketplace. So how can I make it available with that custom smart contract?
So the thing is, once you put your smart contract and you mint the NFTs, right? It can be done. There is a way without marketplace also you can do that. Once you do that, it would be automatically visible on the marketplace. So the marketplaces like OpenSea makes it possible to see all the different NFTs that are present on the blockchain. Like it whatever the smart contract address is there, right? If you put that in the search engine of the OpenSea, in the search box, you would be able to see all the NFTs if it's in the format that OpenSea accepts. The JSON format should be the one that OpenSea accepts.
So if there are say 2-3 marketplaces that use the Ethereum blockchain, so regardless of where I upload it, I'll be able to view it on any of these marketplaces. Is that what?
Yeah. So if you upload it on Ethereum, right, and the marketplace that support Ethereum blockchain or view the data from Ethereum blockchain, they would be able to see that.
Okay, so if I upload on say Rarible, I can see it on OpenSea.
You can, yes.
Okay, so it doesn't matter where I upload it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But that too here, like some marketplaces are a bit centralized. So say OpenSea is quite open standard in that terms, but Rarible is quite conservative in that term. So they are restricting some users to do some specific features. So it again depends on the marketplace to marketplace, which you are want to basically mint on or display your redirect your traffic to basically.
Okay, got it.
Go ahead, Sneha, with your question.
Yeah, just now you were talking about generative NFTs. So, but I didn't actually get what are generative NFTs. So, can you just tell me in a line or so?
Yeah. So basically, to create a unique NFT, artists draw everything by hand, okay, or any kind of application, right? But in generative NFTs, what they can do is there are these layers. So have you ever worked on any Photoshop application or something like that? So there are these layers, right? So for generative NFTs, what people do is they create different layers, like say set of 7 backgrounds, set of 7 faces, and like that. And they pass it to the code base. And what is the function of the code base is to mix and match those layers and combine them together and create data for that. So in that sense, it is completely randomized. No one does it by hand. And it adds a value to it that it is randomly generated. And that's why they call it generative art. There are also some machine learning libraries and stuff that is going on, like machine learning and artificial intelligence are being used by artists and people to create generative art. Yeah.
Okay, so instead of drawing and designing it by myself, I'd delegate the task to a code, and then according to how I design the code, it fills in the colors, it fills in the specifications.
No. That is not. The layers would still be created by you. Okay. The task of the code will be to randomize this process of adding which layer goes on top of which. Basically, yeah.
So I will fix the specifications, but then mix them, like the mix and match process will be done by the code. So
Yes.
if I can, let us say if I make one digital piece, one art, which has some specifications. So by using the generator code, I can create maybe 100 of them by just mixing and matching.
No, actually, you didn't quite get it. So it not just like for one art, okay? You need to create few layers for it, like few black backgrounds. Say 7 different colors of background, 7 different t-shirts, 7 different headgear. I think Saurabh is sharing something. So it depends, like what kind of things you are. Okay, Saurabh. Yeah, so yeah, the images he shared, right? So the background in each image and the face, right? So these are different layers. So the yellow background is a layer, the blue background is a layer. Then the facial structure, these are different layers. And what the code will do is they will combine these different layers. So the artist hasn't created that like flat face on blue background. The thing that he did was he passed these different layers to the code, and the code did the thing of mixing and matching it randomly.
Okay, so essentially we create layers, and the job of the code is to just make a bunch of different pieces, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right.
So you'll
Thanks for bearing with me.
You'll get a resource to deep dive into how it's done. It's as it's code, I cannot explain verbally, right? So you'll get a resource. Sarvesh, go on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just one addition. That's just a certain type of generative art that you're talking about, right? It doesn't necessarily have to have layers.
Yes,
You can actually just have complete code, or you can use a base image and manipulate it. But the layers is just a certain type of
generative art. Yeah, yeah. It's not the complete generative art. So even like there is this. I don't know if you guys have heard. Like some people, what they did was they used the original image of CryptoPunk, moved it into a ML model, and created different CryptoPunks out of it, and it got hit. So it depends on like what your imagination is here.
Nice. Cool.
Can I just do a random self plug and say that I did try my hand at generative art? It was something simple, but basically I randomized the radius of a circle and the width and the color of the circle, and then generated different images.
Wow, that's nice. That's nice.
You did that, sir?
Yep. I haven't minted it yet, but I can.
Yeah, Gautam.
Sorry to interrupt. So I was asking, like, since you was explaining this generative NFTs, is it anywhere related to that GAN network and stuff on the ML?
Which network are you talking about?
Like those generative adversarial networks, neural networks and stuff.
Okay, so neural networks and GAN networks. Okay. Yeah, that comes under machine learning. Yeah, but actually, artists are using like ML and stuff to generate art. And actually, because machine learning and AI has quite a history, right? So currently, there are many models that are really awesome to be used in generative arts. I guess that solves your question, Gautami.
Yeah.
Wow. So these are what Sarvesh was talking about. These are really cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Can you go to the last line, Saurabh? There was a code piece. So like everyone who was asking. So like I think Sarvesh, you use this code, right, to generate it.
I can send a link to the code, and you guys can play around with the sliders and generate your own art piece if you want.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
You have artists. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so interoperability, like a lot of people had this doubt now, like what's actually the scene is still in the stage of building, right? So people are building it, but right now Sarvesh is in Bangalore, right? We met. I'm in Pune, so I can sell my arts only in Pune. Sarvesh can only sell arts only in Bangalore. But now we are creating the connectivity for the different cities basically. So I'm basically trying to explain a city as a protocol, as a blockchain.
Blockchain.
Now I can go to Bangalore and also sell my art too, and Sarvesh can come to Pune and sell these too. So we are in the stage of creating that. We're still very early with NFTs, right? And I think
It's
Sunil
really
is
early, but in the upcoming months, it would definitely be there.
But yeah, so there's a problem. People are building solutions around it. Lovely. Ayush?
Yeah, so
Yep.
so do anyone have any questions?
I think we're already at the end of the class.
Yeah, we are, yes. Okay, so I really loved the questions and today's session. Thank you everyone for being so supportive.
Thanks, Kedar.
Thanks.
This
Thanks,
question and answer session was like
Thank you,
the best
sir.
part of today's session.
Yeah, the
Guys,
question and answer session was interesting.
Guys, we have a ritual of taking a photograph by end of the session. So please can everyone turn at least the first frame people. I don't want to convince everyone. At least the first frame people who want to feature on our social media. But we have this quick therapy thing, right? So we just click a picture and we put it on the wall that you can see on our website. I think Ayush, you'll have to click.
Nice,
I'm still stuck with this frames and all. Yeah. I found it, bro. Once in, I'm putting all tiles on.
You found
All
it
tiles on.
to how to increase it?
Yeah.
Finally.
Dude, I was not putting efforts to find it also, I think, yeah. But I can see the cameras are still off. Oh, all the cameras are on. Lovely. I
Yeah,
think I'm
yeah.
going to get the picture.
Everyone is ready now for the photograph.
Thanks a lot, guys. So yeah, we're just getting started, right? Day one, we still feel like we're still feeling that 3 days are too less. So let's see where can we get together. Guys, I cannot see cameras. Why not? Why? Oh, slowly. I think my internet issue.
Yeah, they are there.
Okay, guys, all cameras are on. I don't know. I cannot see it. See, this is what I can see. I don't know, due to internet issue. Ayush, you'll have to click the picture, though.
Like even I cannot
Well,
see.
let me
but-
just click it. Let me just click it.
Oh yeah.
I can see as well.
Oh yeah, I can also see now, guys. This is what we do. Radhika, you know it. Better do it. Okay, so this was day one. 1 second. This was day one of our NFT bootcamp, and I think we are all good to go. But before we go, is there anything else, Ayush? Day two. So one, we need to share resources via email or in the group. Recordings gonna be shared by 10 p.m., 11
in
p.m.
few hours. Yeah.
Next 3 to 4 hours. Second, afternoon time, figure out a time, ask Kedar what time he is available, and do some sort of extra discussion class around Discord. You all have Discord link. If you don't have, ping Ayush in the group. And yeah, I think we are all set. We are all good to go. So what we do is we play some music and we all say goodbye to everyone as usual. Cool.
Bye.
Bye bye.
So Saurabh, Prajakta is asking any session on Clubhouse. Only Discord.
Bye everyone.
तो हम क्या करें अब जाने दो बातें कहाँ तो तेरी यादें जो बिगाड़े बस सुनाते पूरी दास्तां ऐसे कैसे आए ना बताए और चल पड़ी